Any specific objectives, my lord? No. I set you free, my beloved. My best son. Do now what you are made to do. Hurt them.
Welcome to Fightmaster, the show where we analyze the galaxy's greatest warriors and break down their most iconic duels. And boy, do we have a special one today. The final confrontation between two space marines whose lists of titles and accomplishments could fill a whole video, and yet who need no introduction. From the berserk ranks of the World Eaters, the Herald of the Blood God, Kharn the Betrayer. From the ever-stoic Imperial Fists, Sigismund, the Emperor's Champion. One final bout between men who had sparred hundreds of times, who had fought for real only weeks earlier. One final clash between the greatest slugger in the galaxy and Sigismund's own signature style. Having been operating under the weight of his gene father's disapproval and doubt about his own beliefs, in many ways Sigismund had grown weaker over the course of the Horus heresy. But as the Templar himself remarked, a warrior is never more vulnerable than when he is correcting a flawed technique. And Rogel Dorn had in fact been punishing Sigismund with the intent of making his first captain grow. This is a tricky time for any fighter, as one develops a flawed technique due to the fact that it works. You don't repeatedly do something wrong if it fails. There can be a lot of factors that contribute to a flawed technique developing, be it the fighter's athleticism, the nature of their most common enemy, or some other factor like a certain body type or environment. So correcting a flaw inevitably comes with a period of failure and uncertainty, as the warrior has to abandon a skill, weapon, or outlook that has gotten them this far. And in Sigismund's case, that was to the very top of the mountain. Growing further was no simple task. It cost Sigismund losses, it cost him pride, but Dorn's censure was a success. Forcing the Templar to think and assess himself had worked. Seemingly, the moment Dorn informed his first captain the punishment had ended, a new Sigismund was born. One that could truly combine attack and defense into one action, just as he had been trying to. But now the penny had dropped. The Templar understood. For his style to work, he had to see them as the same thing. He would not try to attack or defend, but he would treat every strike, block, parry, or movement as its own encounter to be won. It would require complete faith in himself, and utter calm in the most chaotic of times and places. For the Templar, there could be only one solution. He had to remove himself, cease to care, if he was going to vent his hatred and deliver the vengeance the traitors so desperately deserved. He would have to fight as if he felt nothing. To be the best, to overcome the limits of his semi-mortal frame, Sigismund would enter combat not as a person, but as an action, not thinking, simply being and doing. His opponent, Kharn, could no longer undergo such growth. The butcher's nails pain engine in his brain slowly eating away at him, combined with the changes wrought on him by the God of Blood, meant the World Eater had lost the presence of mind to make such changes. But unlike many of his brothers, Kharn is no mere berserker. Kharn has skills to rival any warrior in the galaxy. It's just that he finds growth from this point all but impossible. Perhaps, in the future, he could learn to adjust again. But as things stood, the 8th captain was in a state his legion called lost to the nails. A usually temporary state where the World Eater has entered a trance-like kill frenzy, during which their personality is subsumed by a relentless need to inflict damage. Despite his seemingly controlled exterior, Kharn had been in fact operating in this state the entire Siege of Terra. As I have discussed many times, Kharn's style is the slugger, a fighter who seeks to end the contest with a single devastating strike. Khan's dueling tactics are all about setting up that fight-ending blow. He may appear from the outside like a wild man, only ever throwing massive, killing blow type attacks, but it's an important part of Khan's style, as it allows him to disguise his intent, as all his attacks appear to his opponent as equally lethal. On top of this, he seeks to send a message with these heavy blows, force his foe to overthink things as they quickly realize should any of Khan's attacks land cleanly, the fight will be over. The tiny hesitation this can create offers openings for the World Eater to force his enemy onto the back foot, where he can often overwhelm them with his literally God-given athleticism. Failing that, he possesses a number of tricks and traps to lure out or force an opening for his axe Gorechild to end the encounter. The walls of the Imperial Palace had been breached, forcing the Loyalist forces into desperate city fighting as they fell back to the palace interior. In an attempt to slow the traitor advance and give the traitors something to fear, Rogel Dawn dispatched his greatest son, the notorious Sigismund, into the falling city. He would not be retreating. No, the first captain would fight a guerrilla war, seeking out the officer class of the enemy and making them pay. Teach the fleeing Imperials the enemy could be beaten, and teach the enemy that their blessings would not stop them from bleeding. Taking a force of the Imperial Fist 1st Company Templars with him, Sigismund set out for the falling continent-sized city. But before he could begin the righteous vengeance his heart sang for, a strange group of emissaries from the Regent Malkador intercepted the first captain. While Sigismund was initially not interested in what the mortals had to say, they persevered and assured him their lord had a gift for the Templar, a weapon that would complement him, a large two-handed sword with a blade so black it almost appeared as liquid. They informed him the nameless black sword had been forged by the Emperor thousands of years ago and held in storage till now, a strange fusion of magnificent technology and sorcerous ritual, a blade of the same order as Constantin Valdor's miraculous Apollonian spear. Sigismund was finally complete, the perfect weapon for his now fully formed style. But what was more, if this fusion of craftsmanship and magic was thousands of years old, then the Emperor had known about gods and demons even as he sent the Great Crusade into the cosmos to destroy all who believed in such. It was proof his doubts could be discarded, despite what they had been taught, despite what ideas his father clung to. The Emperor was a god and always had been. Elsewhere in the gigantic city of the Imperial Palace, Khan, who would one day be called the Betrayer, was brooding. He had sworn a skilled skull to the Lord of Skulls, but the enemy had cheated him, fleeing rather than dying as he should. It galled the Herald of the War God. It consumed his thoughts. No less a prey would do till he had taken the skull of First Captain Sigismund. Fortunately for Khan, Sigismund would not prove difficult to find. Rallying several groups of Imperial Army and Space Marines cut off from the palace interior, they had no chance to retreat, but with the seemingly invincible Black Sword leading them, they were galvanized to sell their lives dearly. Word spread to the traitor advance of a loyalist champion, leading a resistance and slaughtering their leaders. Rather than discourage the traitors, it excited them. Since the walls had been breached, most of the fighting had been slaughters. The loyalist forces broken and fleeing were no challenge at all. With traitor victory a seeming certainty, many warriors sought to take the biggest scalps they could, and short of a Primarch, there are few targets bigger than the legendary duelist Sigismund. Traitors and desperate defenders converged around the first captain, creating a singularity of violence that called to the traitor champions. To the Emperor's champion, it seemed the enemy rushed to feed his blade, just as he had planned. Either listening to communications, or led by more esoteric methods, Kharn intercepted a force of 100 of his berserk brothers, their original objectives instantly forgotten, as they would gladly follow the monstrous 8th captain. While he wasn't able to articulate exactly who they were going to find, they understood if this black sword had escaped Kharn, he was certainly worth putting down. Leading the ravenous pack towards the singularity, Kharn knew he would soon set things right, soon take the skull he obsessed over. Sigismund had been just about to order his forces to retreat to a new battleground when the World Eaters appeared. The Imperial Fist instantly could see who led them. Changing his mind utterly, he ordered his forces to re-engage the Sons of Horus they had been fighting, and meet the World Eater charge head-on. It would cost lives, but these were all dead men walking anyway, and Sigismund had not been ordered to preserve lives. He had been ordered to hurt the enemy, crush their totems. Totems like Kharn. Both warriors had elite bodyguard forces with them, but they may as well not have been there at all. They were mere delivery systems, to make sure the champions met, make sure no one got in the way. And so they met for the final time, the Templar and the Herald, one filled with the endless rage of a god, the other a black hole of emptiness, both driven by mindless instinct and muscle memory, honed over hundreds of years of warfare. Perfect engines of destruction that could no more willingly retreat than they could willingly stop breathing. This time, Sigismund did not switch styles, meeting instead Kharn's power head-on. This time, he had a weapon that was a match for Kharn's gore child, maybe even its better. This time, he nullified Kharn's ability to hide his intentions, as Sigismund no longer had a need to guess several steps ahead in a fight. Every moment, every block, parry, thrust, swing, every step, every dodge had become a micro-conflict all of its own, and Sigismund intended to win them all. Of course, such a feat is impossible. No one can win every second of every fight. But that fact made the Imperial Fist rejoice. He could at once be the best, but still be growing, still be chasing an ideal. Their fight lasted long minutes, destroying much of the already war-torn streets they jeweled across. None tried to intervene. Even the other Space Marines knew it'd be like trying to fight a natural disaster. Against these two monsters there could be nothing done, but to await the outcome. While Kharn was able to land blows on Sigismund, he found the fight strangely lacking in the invigoration he felt last time, and he knew why. Sigismund would give him no reaction to anything. Not to his taunts, not to his attacks. The Templar had simply ceased to care. Perhaps even about the outcome of the fight. He was simply fighting. It was near perfect fighting, true, but where was the soul? The boasts, the roars, the thrills? Had Kharn and his traitorous ilk created their own worst enemy? Had they pushed the Imperium so far that its warriors traded their joy, their souls, for the power to win? The irony was not lost on Kharn, but more than that, the concept terrified him. Growing desperate, the World Eater pushed his demonically empowered body even further, trying to squeeze out more speed, more strength, something to counter the mechanical perfection of the soulless monster he fought. But it wasn't enough. Yes, Gorechild bit home several times, devouring ceramite armor and flesh with its whirring teeth. But it seemed every time they clashed, Sigismund got the better of it. Just slightly, but over the course of the duel it accumulated, moment by moment. Kharn was losing. The World Eater raged. He screamed, but the Templar ignored him, coming on implacably. Kharn saw the blow that would fell him coming, but it was too late. Desperate to elicit some reaction at least, he told Sigismund that even the World Eater was not as damaged as him. The first captain did not respond, simply hacking Kharn to the ground and impaling him. Taking no time over the body of his former friend, Sigismund said nothing, just as he had not the entire fight. Instead, he simply moved on. He would remember Kharn, but only as a difficult fight. Never again would he consider one of these traitors his former brother. They were just filth to be wiped from existence. Of course, the war god wouldn't allow his favorite toy to leave the mortal coil forever, and Kharn would eventually return to plague the galaxy. But for now, he was just another body left in the wake of the Black Templar.